So I'm Nitin Shukla. I work as the Commissioning and Policy Officer at the Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner for Northumbria, Kim McGuinness, and I have a huge privilege of being a trustee of Connected Voice. And I'll talk about a handful of other organizations that I also have some involvement with a little later. I think I would start off by saying I find it quite frustrating that from what we've heard so far, that it's the kind of conversations we were having 5-10 years ago. So what's really changing in relation to inclusion and the things that matter to us the most? Many of us face inequalities every day, and this could be either as recipients of services or in employment. And my reflection and experience is that there are services that aren't really responsive to the needs of our diverse communities. I guess the challenge is really understanding how well do we know our communities, which continue to change on a daily basis. And so if we don't really have an understanding of those communities, then and we're not able to engage with them, how do we then ensure that the services that we deliver are responsive to their needs? We've had years of equalities legislation, and for me, it just really proved ineffective in terms of the legislation. So at the end of the day, who is holding organizations to account in ensuring that they actually deliver for all of our citizens in the region or in the areas in which you work? And so I think accountability is really, really important. And that's why I'm delighted to share my thoughts and views this afternoon around representation, because that really is really, really important. I think for me, leadership is absolutely crucial in tackling inequalities in our communities and in society. Where there is good evidence of this agenda being driven by leaders, we've seen positive change. I'll just give you one very quick example. Working for the PCC, some 3 years ago, we recognized in terms of Northumbria Police and its workforce that it did not represent the communities that the police serve. Cut a long story short, we did some work with the police, introduced a positive action program, and in 2.5 years, they recruited nearly 100 police officers from diverse backgrounds into the organization. And that was something that was really driven through from our office and by our police and crime commissioner. So really, for me, leadership is absolutely crucial to ensuring that we have a just society, and that's really, really important. And I think for me, the reason I have got involved as a trustee, and it was interesting listening to Steph when she talked about what barriers does she face. I've got to say that the roles that I currently have, one is a trustee of Connected Voice, and just as very quickly, so I sit on the Newcastle University Council, which is their governing body. I'm a chair of governors of a primary school, and there are a couple of other organizations. So I've got to say, all of these opportunities were where I was invited to join rather than me looking out for opportunities to join. It was where I was invited to consider becoming a trustee or a governor or what have you. And I'm really, really pleased that I took those opportunities, because what it's enabled me to do is to absolutely influence change in all of the organizations on which I have a role as a trustee or as a governor. And that's really, really important. And we've seen that in all of the organizations that, in terms of its the values and what's important in terms of having people that support at the heart of the organization and ensuring the delivery of services are responsive is where we're getting to. And so for me, taking those opportunities have been absolutely crucial, because it has absolutely enabled me to influence change in those organizations, for which I'm really, really grateful. What I bring to my role as a trustee is my experience of having worked in equality and diversity for many years. I have lived experience of having faced discrimination and prejudice, and kind of issues that affect health and well-being of our communities. And so when we talk about representation, and Steph made reference to this, it's really, really important that through my role, I'm able to amplify the voices of those who are less often heard, which I think is really, really important. And it goes back to how well then do we know our communities. And so in terms of representation, I think bringing that difference and insight and thought to the way in which our boards operate. And that's really, really important. I'm not there just focusing on equality, diversity, and inclusion. Through my work, I have experience of performance management. So, it's asking those kind of questions where it's about ensuring that organizations are actually making a difference to the lives of people that they're actually working with. Not very process driven, but it's actually outcome focused, and ensuring organizations that there is good governance in terms of how it manages finances, how decisions are made, and all those kind of things which I do contribute to. In each of those organizations, I've taken upon myself when an opportunity arises to step forward and to take senior roles within those organizations, because I think that's really, really important. So representation is absolutely crucial. And I really hope that we can strive to continue to make difference, because when I started off by saying some of my frustrations are that we are having the kind of conversations we were having a few years back. And so what progress are we actually making? And whilst I appreciate that we've made some progress, there is a long way to go. Now, a couple of things I want to finish off with. I think sometimes there are organizations that are looking for trustees. I'll often get people ringing me up or contact me and saying, we're looking to diversify our board. Do you know anybody who might be interested? So there are organizations who are looking, sometimes they're not really too sure how they go about engaging with or making people aware of those opportunities. At the same time, there are people in our communities who might not necessarily be aware of what's happening. Sometimes I think they need a bit of encouragement. And on a couple of occasions, I've been able to do that, because where organizations were looking for a trustee and I knew of an individual who I believed could make a contribution, was having that conversation, encouraging, supporting, a bit of mentoring from my own experience to say, you know what, you would make a really good trustee and contribute to that organization. So I think there is a little bit of, when we talk about at the moment, there's lack of representation. I understand that, but there are organizations at the same time, I believe, who are actively looking to address this on their boards. But I think it's about how we manage that. And I know Colette, for example, who's the trustee at Connected Voice, and her work at Community Foundation is very much about matching trustees to organizations, and should be a good ally. So that's all I want to say at the moment, but I'll be very, very happy to take any questions.